Welcome to Beautiful Thrift Homemaking. I'm Linda, and we're reading through a vintage cookbook. We're starting the month of October because this book covers 1 year starting from June, because June is the month for weddings, and we are following the first year of married life for a fictional character named Bettina. She's a homemaker, and she shares her recipes with us in this vintage cookbook from 1917. All right, so month of October begins with a poem. Oh, hazy month of glowing trees and colors rich to charm our eyes. Yet, not less fair than all of these are mother's fragrant pumpkin pies. All right, so I don't know about you, but October, yes, we might start thinking about pumpkin pies. Chapter 60 and Chapter 61 will be the two chapters for us today. Chapter 60, A Kitchen Shower for Alice. Did you want me for something, Mary? Asked Alice at the door. Mother said you had telephoned. Come in, cried 10 girls at once, while Bettina whispered to Ruth, Thank goodness she's come. The muffins are all but done. What in the world? Said Alice. A party for you. And I'm wearing my old suit. We caught you this time, but never mind. Come in and take off your things. As soon as Alice reappeared in the living room, a small table was drawn up before the open fire. 2 girls appeared, wearing gingham aprons and carrying overflowing market baskets. This is a kitchen shower for you, Alice, Ruth explained somewhat ceremoniously. But if you are willing, we will use the utensils in serving the luncheon and afterwards present them to you. May we unpack the baskets? Do, said Alice, laughing. From the larger basket, Ruth removed 12 white enameled plates of different sizes, suitable for holding supplies in the refrigerator, and 12 crossbarred tea towels. The latter she passed around to be used as napkins, and Mary distributed the plates. On the small serving table before the fire, a white muslin table cover was placed. As she unfolded it, Ruth read from the attached card. If breakfast you should chance to eat upon the kitchen table, I'll make it dainty, fair, and neat, so far as I am able. When the steel forks and spoons of various sizes were taken out and passed around, 2 glass measuring cups were found to hold loaf sugar wrapped in frilled paper. Upon one of these, Ruth read, Please eat us all, but let your sweet hours be duly treasured, for we belie the worldly eye, true sweetness can't be measured. A glass rolling pin filled with sticky candy came next, and its sentiments read, and meanwhile the girls had begun to read aloud the advice pinned upon the tea towels, such as, no matter what his whims and wishes, just tell him he must wipe the dishes. And, but if he breaks a cup or plate, just throw the pieces at him straight. What vindictive dish towels, said Alice. They're not a bit sentimental. When the contents had been removed, and all the verses read, the large basket was presented to Alice, who read from its handle, To market to buy your supplies. You'll go there in person, if careful and wise. I will, Mr. Basket, with you over my arm, answered Alice. Meanwhile, the girls had carried in the salad in an earthenware mixing bowl, the muffins heaped high in a small basket with a dainty dust cloth over them, the coffee in a large enameled pitcher, and the molasses puffs wrapped in frilled paper in a basket suitable for holding supplies. Bettina's apples were arranged in 2 flat enameled pans. All the food was served informally from the small table, and the merriment grew as the luncheon progressed. I wish that all the meals Harry and I have together might be as jolly as this one. I am sure I should be glad to eat always from kitchen dishes, if that is what makes the fun, said Alice. At the kitchen shower, the luncheon was as follows. Bettina's potato salad, Bettina's spiced beets, Twin Mountain muffins, currant jelly, molasses puffs, Bettina's apples, coffee, and stick candy. And in this chapter, we have Bettina's recipes for Bettina's potato salad, Bettina's spiced beets, the molasses puffs, icing, and Bettina's apples. All right, so remember, we'll discuss this after we read the next chapter. So we're going to read chapter 61, A Rainy Night Meal. Why, Bob, I thought you'd be miles away by this time, cried Bettina as Bob came into the house at the usual time one evening. They called off our trip on account of the weather, and I supposed you'd be at your mother's. It was raining, so that I decided to build a cozy little fire in the fireplace and stay at home. Well, I'm glad you're here. I was expecting to come home to a cold, dark house, and this is much more cheerful. And I expected not to see you till midnight, so I'm well suited too. But, Bobby, you mustn't complain if I give you a pick-up meal. I expected to eat only a lunch myself. I don't care what you give me, just so it's hot. My walk through the rain has given me an appetite. I'll help you get supper and wash the dishes, Bettina, and then afterward we'll pop corn and toast marshmallows by the fire. What do you say? Fine, Bob. I cooked some celery today, just a little, and I think I'll fix celery au gratin for you. The cookie jar is full of rocks. A full cookie jar? Bettina, that ought to be the symbol of our happy home. May it always be full. You're altogether too You're altogether too oratorical for a staid married man, Bob. Well, as I was saying, here is applesauce, and I'll soon have some emergency biscuits stirred up. Then with scrambled eggs. Hurry, Bettina, my appetite grows with every dish you mention. They had a meal of scrambled eggs, celery au gratin, emergency biscuit, fresh applesauce, rocks, and coffee. And here we have the recipes for the scrambled eggs, the celery au gratin, and, believe it or not, a recipe for rocks. Okay, join me in just a second and we will discuss these two chapters. All right, time for our discussion. So we begin October at last, and we have a kitchen shower for Alice. You know, one time I went to a party that was called a pounding. It was for a new bride, and everyone was to bring a pound of something. I guess that's another old-fashioned celebration of a new marriage is a pounding. So a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, and so forth. So that was a fun event. So we're having a kitchen shower for Alice and 10 friends. Bettina is hosting it. And there are some pictures in the book. We have the we have the picture that goes with the poem. And so we have, I presume, Bob there carving pumpkins. And that picture goes with the poem about the pumpkin pie. And then here's the gingham aprons that the girls are wearing, carrying their baskets. Now, I wouldn't call that gingham myself. I would say that it looks more like just a patterned printed calico or something, but I usually think of gingham as a little checkered, like white and yellow, or white and red, or white and blue, or white and green, checkered fabric. But the aprons were said to be gingham. And those are two of the friends carrying in baskets full of what's at this party but kitchen supplies, right? That they're going to pass along to Alice for her new kitchen as she's getting married very soon. So I was wondering, do you use reusable bags when you go grocery shopping? Well, back in 1917, there was something called a market basket. And this roomy basket was carried over the arm, and the housewife would put her items in there as she was shopping, and then they'd take it to the check stand and do her business with the cashier, and then carry her market basket of goods back home on her arm. So I know several different types of bags that I take to the grocery store. Some of them fold up into a tiny little rolled stuffed bag that are about this big, and I have two of them like that, so they're handy to keep in the console in the car and have with me. I hate to waste the 10 cents paying for a shopping bag at our grocery stores here in California. That's what we have to pay if we want a shopping bag, and those are just the plastic, and so I like to bring my reusable bags. I do have some other types also. Now, we'll also mention the types of things that are given to her. They mentioned white enameled plates. I don't have any plain white ones, but I do have this one enameled plate, so I could show it. This one is speckled with green. And you can see how shiny it is. You can see as it catches the light that it's shiny. And I will show you that it's metal, and it has this smooth white coating to it. And so that's an enameled plate. And you will notice that this is for very casual dining. In fact, a lot of what we consider camping utensils, camping plates, are made with enameled. So let's see. We also had tea towels, and they use those for the napkins. And I'm wondering, do you use cloth napkins at all in your home? I just happened this weekend to make myself a new cloth napkin. I had this piece of fabric that I thought was so charming, and for some reason I just loved it and didn't want to cut it up and use it in a quilt. And so I just turned down the edges twice and made a nice seam along there. And so this is my new cloth napkin. Not that I use cloth napkins that often, but I do have this one, extra one now here. And so they were using the tea towels for their napkins, and they had a white muslin table cover or tablecloth on the little table in front of the fireplace. Now, a muslin is a very casual, somewhat rustic fabric. So again, this is going to indicate the that we're at a casual get-together, just like the enamel plates indicate. And they used steel forks and knives instead of silver, for example, or silver plate, which would be more fancy. They gave her 2 glass measuring cups. Speaking of this, I saw a YouTube video about Pyrex measuring cups and found out that there's 2 versions of Pyrex. Some of it has lowercase letters and some all uppercase, and there's a difference in the composition of the materials that go into making the glass. And this involved also the Pyrex baking dishes. And so that's what I was thinking of when I saw these 2 glass measuring cups. They are often the Pyrex brand. They also had an interesting thing made of glass, a rolling pin that apparently could hold stick candy inside. So I don't quite know about that type of rolling pin, but I do know about stick candy. At least I think I do. When I was a little girl, there was a toy store in my town. It was called Alvin's. And Mr. Alvin, he always, and that was his first name, but he would, when you bought a gift there for a birthday party, which is of course why you'd go in there, is to buy a gift for a birthday party, and he would wrap it for you, and then he'd always tape 1 piece of stick candy on the top, and you got to choose the colors of the stripes that you wanted on there, you know, so maybe it was a blue and white striped candy, or a yellow and pink striped candy, and so forth. And that was like an extra gift for the child who was receiving the present. So I have fond memories of stick candies just because I just love that idea of presenting the present with that extra little attractive piece on top. So inside of this glass rolling pin, there's stick candy, and they had that as part of their menu at the end for their dessert. Remember that a careful and wise woman does her own shopping, we were told. And that reminds me of the verse from Proverbs chapter 31 that we talked about before. She brings her food from afar. All right, and then there was an earthenware mixing bowl, and that's also a casual material. And then an enameled pitcher for coffee and some baskets. And Alice determined that it was an awful lot of fun to eat on the kitchen dishes. So as a society girl, I'm sure she was well versed in eating on fine china and so forth. So this was especially fun for her. I think she was feeling like she was playing house or something. We have recipes in this chapter. We have the potato salad, which is pretty typical of one we would make today, other than it does not have mayonnaise. It has a cup of salad dressing around it, and it is served on top of some crisp lettuce leaves. But it does have the usual boiled potatoes, diced celery, diced hard-cooked egg, diced sweet pickles, diced pimento, a little salt, and a chopped onion. So again, I think that's pretty typical of what we would make today. Her spiced beets, we've gone over that in the past. Molasses puffs were a kind of a muffin, and they have a lot of molasses in them, 3/4 of a cup, and also some cinnamon and ginger. So they must have tasted a lot like a gingerbread. They were iced with a powdered sugar icing. And I take that back. I remember now that sea sugar is the brown sugar, the light brown sugar. So they were iced with a light brown sugar icing. And then Bettina's apples, we've gone over a recipe like this before. This one she washed, peeled, and cored the apples. Then she put them in a pan, and she has sugar and water thoroughly mixed together in the bottom of the pan. It's 3 cups of light brown sugar and 2 cups of water with 12 apples, because she has a party of 11 people, and she has an apple for each person. And so the apples are cooking in that sugar water, and they're turned, and then they're removed from the syrup and placed in a serving dish. Then she fills the center with 1/2 of a marshmallow, adds some cinnamon, which is 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a tablespoon of butter to the syrup, and cooks for 5 minutes until it thickens. Then she poured it over and around the apples and decorated with a marshmallow cut into 4ths. So very frugal there, and served those warm. And we noticed that things are getting a little more cozy. It's a rainy night, and she had a little fire going in her fireplace in chapter 61. Didn't expect Bob home that evening. She thought he'd be gone until midnight or something, because he had to do some extra work that would take him away. But he walked home in the rain, and because of the rain, his extra trip that evening for work was canceled. And so Bettina was surprised and not prepared with a dinner for him. So she says she's just going to make a pickup meal, and we've seen her do that before. She relies on her emergency shelf and her pantry. In this case, she had cooked some celery, and so she was going to make celery au gratin for him. Bob decides that he has an idea of another cozy evening by the fire, with roasting marshmallows and making some popcorn. But Bettina also says that she can contribute rocks. All right, so we're going to look at that recipe, because he sure does like to have those. So again, scrambled eggs and biscuit. is a nice dinner sometimes, and a good change of pace. They're also comforting foods, which is nice on a rainy evening. The celery au gratin is made with 1 cup of cooked diced celery, 1 tablespoon butter, 1 tablespoon flour, half a cup of milk and celery stalk, 3 tablespoons of grated cheese, 1/8 teaspoon of paprika, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And here are the instructions. Cook the celery in a small amount of water at a low temperature, as too fast boiling makes it tough. Simmer until tender. Melt the butter, add the flour, and blend well. Add the milk and stock, pepper, and salt. Add the cheese. Allow to cook until it is the consistency of a thin vegetable white sauce. Add the celery. Place in a hot oven for 15 minutes. Bettina uses a part of the water in which the celery is simmered to make up the cup of combined milk and celery stalk. The remainder of the celery stalk she saves for soup. Good tip there. And I'm wondering, do you make soups during the fall? And do you have a favorite recipe? I have not mastered soups yet, so I don't know if that's because I grew up in the desert and we didn't have soup very often. Okay, seems like I was going to say something else. I was going to mention the paprika was also something that she added to her scrambled eggs, by the way. 1/8 teaspoon of paprika with 3 eggs, and then a little bit of milk and salt and butter in those scrambled eggs. All right, so we noticed also again a vegetable white sauce. So another form of white sauce. This one has some cheese in it too. And if we went back quite a ways, we would be able to review all the white sauces that Bettina has at her disposal. Okay, so part of her arsenal in the kitchen is to make a white sauce. Now for the rocks. Okay, so rocks. This makes 2 dozen. And can you guess what they might be? Here are the ingredients. 1½ cup brown sugar, 2/3 cup butter, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 2½ cups flour, 1 teaspoon soda, baking soda, 1½ cups chopped nut meats and raisins, 1 teaspoon vanilla. All right, here are the instructions. Cream the butter, add the sugar, and cream the mixture. Add the eggs, well beaten, and the remaining dry ingredients except nuts and raisins, sifted together. Mix well. Add the nut meats and chopped raisins and vanilla. The mixture should be very stiff. Drop from a spoon onto flat, buttered pans, or preferably onto a buttered baking sheet. Bake about 12 minutes in a moderate oven. Bettina keeps rocks in a stone jar and finds that they keep well and are really better when a day old. All right, so it seems to be a drop cookie with nuts and raisins. And the flavorings, cinnamon and cloves, makes it have that fall essence. So that's pretty nice. And I wouldn't mind trying that sometime. I don't know. We've talked about raisins quite a bit, and they're not my favorite addition because my family doesn't seem to like them that much. However, my mom and her generation absolutely loved raisins. We had an elderly neighbor. He was about the age of my mom, and he sadly is in a care home right now. But when his wife died, he mentioned that the oatmeal raisin cookies were the favorite treat that she would make for him, and he missed those. So a couple of times I tried to make the oatmeal raisin cookies for him, and I don't know if I hit the mark because who knows what her recipe was like compared to mine. I do find that many of those recipes are awfully sweet, maybe a little too sweet. Might be the addition of the raisins that adds the extra sugar. So that's it for these 2 chapters, chapter 60 and 61. I hope you enjoyed everything and are having fun along with me. Thank you, and happy autumn to you.